In the autumn of 1888, London was far from the dazzling capital of the empire it liked to think it was. Just picture it. While the West End sparkled with wealth, gaslit theaters, and posh gentlemen's clubs, the reality in Whitechapel was grim. This area was like a twisted maze of narrow alleys and cramped tenements, where the stench of poverty hung heavy in the air. Thousands of the city's poorest souls were just trying to scrape by, battling disease, hunger, and sheer desperation every single day. It's heartbreaking, really. And it was right here, in the midst of all this suffering, that a name would emerge, a name that still sends chills down our spines even today: Jack the Ripper. Can you believe that? A figure shrouded in mystery and horror, haunting the streets of London and leaving a mark on history that we can't shake off. The East End in the late 19th century was a gritty place, bustling with immigrants, hard-working laborers, and women who, out of sheer desperation, turned to prostitution just to scrape together a few pennies for bread. Picture this: streets slick with refuse, gin shops spilling over with the half-drunk, and crime lurking around every corner where the law barely dared to tread. Panic had completely taken over London by this point. Women hurried along the streets, clutching their shawls tighter around their shoulders, their eyes darting around nervously. You could feel the tension in the air, right? Vigilante groups sprang up, armed with lanterns, determined to catch this elusive fiend who always seemed to be one step ahead. The Ripper was like a ghost slipping through the filth and fog of Whitechapel, leaving fear in his wake. It was a chilling time for everyone. Picture this: late-night streets echoing with fear and whispers of his name sending chills through even the bravest souls. The fear he instilled was palpable, gripping the city in a way that felt almost surreal. Even today, his story continues to haunt us, reminding us of that grim era when shadows felt alive and every corner held a hint of danger. It's a haunting reminder of how quickly safety can slip away, right? The first woman attributed to the Ripper's hand was Mary Ann Nichols, known to her friends as Polly. On the 31st of August, 1888, her body was discovered in Bucks Row. Her throat had been slashed, and her abdomen mutilated in a way that suggested not a frenzied attack, but a cold, deliberate act. The police, already overwhelmed with the daily tide of violence in Whitechapel, were horrified at the sheer savagery. Within a week, another victim appeared, Annie Chapman. Found in Hanbury Street on the morning of September 8th, Annie had suffered a fate even more grotesque than Polly Nichols. Her throat was cut, her body opened, and organs carefully removed. The precision of the cuts shocked investigators, leading some to speculate that the killer possessed medical training or at least a butcher's hand, steady and efficient. The fear spread like wildfire, right? Newspapers were all over the gruesome details, splashing sensational headlines across their pages like it was the hottest gossip in town. It was wild. For the first time ever, a serial killer was being tracked in real time, with his chilling crimes reported faster than the police could even keep up. Just when you thought it couldn't get any creepier, letters started showing up at the offices of the press and Scotland Yard. One of these letters, the most notorious of all, had the now legendary signature, Jack the Ripper. Can you imagine the panic? Whether those letters were genuinely penned by the killer or just a cruel prank, no one could really tell. But here's the kicker. The name stuck, and that faceless murderer became a part of his own twisted mythology. It's like the legend took on a life of its own, captivating and horrifying everyone at the same time. People were glued to their newspapers, speculating on the killer's identity and motives, sharing theories over cups of tea. It was a chilling chapter in history, where fear and fascination danced hand in hand, making everyone wonder if they were safe stepping out into the night. It's a story that still sends shivers down our spines today. One of these letters, the most notorious of all, had the now legendary signature, Jack the Ripper. Can you imagine the panic? Whether those letters were genuinely penned by the killer or just a cruel prank, no one could really tell. But here's the kicker. The name stuck, and that faceless murderer became a part of his own twisted mythology. It's like the legend took on a life of its own, captivating and horrifying everyone at the same time. People were glued to their newspapers, speculating on the killer's identity and motives, sharing theories over cups of tea. It was a chilling chapter in history where fear and fascination danced hand in hand, making everyone wonder if they were safe stepping out into the night. It's a story that still sends shivers down our spines today. On the 30th of September, the city held its breath again, gripped by fear and tension. Two more women fell that night, marking what became infamously known as the double event. Elizabeth Stride was discovered in Dutfield's yard. Her throat was cut, but unlike the others, her body showed no gruesome mutilations. Some folks believe the Ripper was interrupted, maybe even spooked, forced to flee before he could finish his grim work. But wait, it gets even darker. Within just an hour, another victim was found, Catherine Eddowes. Her body was absolutely butchered in Mitre Square, her face slashed, her body opened up, and her organs removed with such chilling precision that it sent shivers down the spine of anyone who heard about it. This was the killer's boldest act yet, striking right in the heart of the city's patrol routes, almost as if he was daring the authorities to catch him. Can you imagine the terror that must have gripped the city? Panic had completely taken over London by this point. Women hurried along the streets, clutching their shawls tighter around their shoulders, their eyes darting around nervously. You could feel the tension in the air, right? Vigilante groups sprang up, armed with lanterns, determined to catch this elusive fiend who always seemed to be one step ahead. The Ripper was like a ghost, slipping through the filth and fog of Whitechapel, leaving fear in his wake. It was a chilling time for everyone. The final murder, believed by most to be his last, came on November 9, 1888. Mary Jane Kelly, a young woman living in a small room off Dorset Street, was found in what remains one of the most horrific crime scenes in history. Her body was mutilated beyond recognition, her tiny room transformed into a slaughterhouse. Unlike his other victims, who were killed on the streets, Mary Jane was attacked indoors. The privacy of the room gave the killer time, and he used every moment of it to unleash his darkest impulses. Even seasoned detectives recoiled at the sight, describing it as a vision from hell itself. And then nothing. The murders stopped as suddenly as they had begun. The terror that had gripped the East End lifted, leaving only questions, suspicions, and fear that the killer might return at any moment. Theories blossomed, each more outlandish than the last. Some claimed the killer was a surgeon, others a slaughterhouse worker, still others whispered of a member of the royal family or a foreign immigrant scapegoated by a desperate city. Dozens of names have been suggested. Montague John Druitt, a troubled barrister who drowned himself in the Thames. Aaron Kosminski, a Polish immigrant with a history of mental illness. Even wealthy artists and doctors with connections to the powerful. Yet for all the theories, no proof has ever surfaced. What made Jack the Ripper so terrifying was not only the brutality of his crimes, but the silence he left behind. He vanished into the fog, his identity swallowed by history. In the years since, countless books, films, and studies have tried to solve the mystery, dissecting every scrap of evidence, every blurred police report, every faded photograph. But the truth remains elusive, as if the East End itself conspired to keep his secret. In a way, Jack the Ripper was not just a man, but a reflection of his time, a symbol of the fear and neglect festering in London's underbelly. His killings forced the city to confront its poverty, its vulnerability, and the grim reality that monsters can thrive in the cracks of society. His legend endures not because we know who he was, but because we never will. And so the story lingers, haunting the narrow streets of Whitechapel even today. Tourists walk the cobblestones where his victims fell, staring up at the same soot-stained bricks, wondering if the man who once walked there might have brushed past them in another life. Jack the Ripper is long gone, but his shadow is eternal, etched into the night like the cuts of his knife, a mystery that will never stop, whispering from the dark.